The girl had been dead for 2,000 years, yet her body hadn't decayed at all. Her destiny was supposed to be unearthed by an archaeological team, and put on display in the National Museum for all to see. But no one expected that. Because of a biochemical virus leak at a research facility, every dead person in the world turned into a bloodthirsty, brutal zombie. The girl who had been dead for over 2 millennia was affected too, and woke up from her ancient tomb. But miraculously, she didn't turn into a mindless zombie. Instead, she became a zombie with self-awareness. Perhaps because she had been dead for so long, her mind was a complete blank after waking up. She had lost every memory of her former life. Luckily, from the inscriptions on the steel in front of her coffin, she learned her name and the exact dates of her birth and death. Having just woken up after a 2,000-year nap, the first thing Banban did was look for food. Logically speaking, a zombie's cravings should be no different from a normal zombie's, craving blood-filled food. But Banban found that she was a bit different. She was a zombie who loved eating greens. She couldn't even stand the smell of meat. It was just absurd. Banban felt like a complete oddity, so she didn't want to get involved in the war between humans and zombies outside. So, Banban headed back to the mountains, living a carefree, zen-like life detached from the world. Every day, she'd tend to her vegetable garden, sweep the tomb, and clear out the dungeon traps inside. Occasionally, she'd head down the mountain to catch up on current events and check on the war. It wasn't until the 6th year of her resurrection that humans finally developed a serum that, once injected into a zombie, could restore their memories and emotions from when they were alive. By the 9th year, all zombies had been successfully converted, and humanity finally claimed victory. The converted zombies, having regained their humanity, returned to human society to build a new, harmonious world where humans and zombies coexisted. However, even though these converted zombies possessed normal human emotions and thoughts, their physical health and dietary habits remained just as they were during their zombie phase, craving fresh blood and raw meat. Although most could suppress the instinct deep within them, there were still a few who, like some humans, couldn't control their urges. Because of this, specific laws and enforcement agencies were established to keep things in check. The more she saw of the news, the less Banban wanted to go down the mountain and blend into human society. Because she was different from those carnivorous zombies, she was a vegetarian zombie. Based on her understanding of human nature, if people ever found out she was a vegetarian, she'd definitely be strapped to a lab table to be dissected and studied. Banban just wanted to live her simple, leisurely life on the mountain. But she never expected an accident to happen. One morning, a mechanical roar shattered her peaceful life. Banban heard the commotion and emerged from the tomb, only to see an excavator digging up the burial grounds near the God of Wealth temple. That wasn't just a burial ground, it was Banban's vegetable garden. Furious, she put on her sunglasses and went up to argue, only to find out they were planning a tourism development on the mountain. And so, she was found and brought to the station. Name? Banban. Date of birth? 242 BC. Date of death? 221 BC. The staff member entered 21 into the age at death field on the computer. Then, looking up at the girl at the window, they asked again, time of resurrection? In another month, it'll have been exactly 20 years since I woke up. The staff member calculated the time, and entered 2285 into the actual age field. Seeing that age, Banban got a little annoyed. Are you being serious? Who calculates age like that? You could have written 20, or even 21. Why write 2285? That makes me sound so old. Ignoring her annoyance, the staff member continued the registration. Have you been living on this mountain all these years? Banban nodded. During those 10 years of the zombie apocalypse, did you ever eat any humans? Banban shook her head for a second. I'm a vegetarian. The staff member stared at her for a long time, then typed a line into the thought process column. Capable of lying, possesses advanced cognitive awareness. Seeing this, Banban defended herself. What do you mean, lying? The people from the demolition crew all saw the vegetable patch I planted in the graveyard. Mentioning the graveyard, the staff member said while printing, the Municipal Planning Bureau is launching a tourism development project in Lishan. The graveyard in the mountains is being demolished, and your vegetable patch is being expropriated along with it. And that God of Wealth temple you're living in. Banban was shocked to hear this. The God of Wealth temple is being demolished too? That's a historical landmark, you can't tear it down. It will be renovated into a tourist attraction, so you won't be able to live there anymore. So my vegetable patch is being dug up, and my home is being confiscated. Where am I supposed to live? Don't worry about that. Whether you're a citizen or a registered resident, the government treats everyone equally. They will give you the appropriate demolition compensation and arrange a new place for you to live. But Banban had grown used to living there. She didn't want to leave her comfort zone. Can't I stay in the God of Wealth temple and just be a historical relic like the statue there? After all, zombies of my age are pretty rare. If Banban hadn't revived on her own and crawled out of the grave, but had been dug up by archaeologists instead, she would certainly have been sent to the Capitol Museum for preservation. Saying she was a national treasure level relic wouldn't be an exaggeration at all. But the staff member flatly refused. No, the state has regulations. All zombie residents must be registered and live within their designated jurisdiction for easier management. Our county isn't a designated jurisdiction. You've been living here for all these years, which counts as living illegally. Considering there have been no incidents of zombie attacks here, and the city leaders see that you've been relatively restrained and self-disciplined. That's the only reason we didn't call the ATC squad to come and arrest you. Banban wanted to argue a bit more, but she didn't expect the guy to say, the compensation will be about 30 million. Banban heard this and did the math. In this era where the average monthly salary is 3,000, 30 million would be enough for her to never have to plant another vegetable for the next 1,000 years. She stopped struggling instantly. Seeing that Banban had nothing left to say, the staff member handed her the printed information form. Half an hour later, Banban returned to the main hall with her new ID card. Suddenly, a head on the administrative table near the door called out to her. That's right, just a head. The head was male, 18 years old. He was originally human, then turned into a zombie. A human had cut his head off with one strike. The head rolled into a river and drifted all the way to the foot of Lishan. It got stuck in a groove, and later, some dispersed serum restored his consciousness. Being just a head, he couldn't accept his tragic state and was crying his eyes out there. He was discovered by Banban, who had come to fetch water for her vegetables. After washing him off, she brought him back to the grave to live with her ever since. Perhaps because his brain had taken in too much water, the head was just like Banban. Both had forgotten their memories from when they were alive. So, Banban gave him a new name. Shou, head. How did the talk go? What did the government say? Being headless and limbless, Shou relied entirely on Banban for food, drink, and transport, so Banban's fate was his fate. It didn't work out. I was persuaded. Banban pulled out her new ID card. We have to move to the big city. Shou pouted. Banban, I don't want to go to the big city. I'm just a head, sitting right at the bottom of the social hierarchy. If I went to the big city, the locals would laugh me to death. Honestly, I don't want to go either. But, they're offering way too much money. They're giving us 30 million in relocation compensation. Shou was stunned. You said how much? Is that for real? You're not being scammed, are you? Banban just pulled out a check. It's real. We're going to the bank to open an account and deposit the money in a bit. Shou stared at that genuine check in Banban's hand. He suddenly felt that living a wealthy life in the big city actually sounded pretty nice. His expression changed in a flash, and he beamed with joy. Banban, which city are we moving to? I don't know yet. The specific arrangements haven't come down. Banban folded the check, put it in her bag, and picked up Shou as she walked out of the police station. Shou weighed 8 pounds, and her arms would get a bit tired after holding him for a while. Suddenly, something crossed Banban's mind, and she said to Shou, Shou, now that we have money, when we get to the big city, I'll buy you a robotic body. That way, you can move around freely. A look of surprise lit up Shou's face. Really, Banban? You are the best. I love you. After we get the money, we'll buy some packing supplies in town before heading back to the tomb. Is there anything you need? Shou thought about it for a second. He was just ahead right now. He didn't seem to need anything at all. But hearing the word tomb, he suddenly thought of something, lowered his voice, and asked Banban, Banban. That 30 million you mentioned, it isn't the compensation for your own tomb, is it? Of course not. How could I possibly tell the government about my own tomb? And have them dig up my grave? That money is for the relocation of the vegetable patches around the cemetery. Besides, if they really were digging up my tomb, 30 million wouldn't be enough. It would have to be 30 quadrillion at least. After all, her tomb sat across most of Lishan Mountain. When Banban first woke up, it took her 3 whole days and nights just to crawl out of the tomb. Not only was the tomb massive, but it was also filled with traps and mechanisms everywhere. If Banban hadn't been someone who had already died once, she really would have died in there. She didn't know who had designed this tomb. People who knew might think it was to prevent grave robbers, but those who didn't would think it was designed to keep her from escaping after coming back to life. That evening, after buying a bunch of things, Banban returned to the God of Wealth temple and pressed a recessed switch under the base of the statue. A tunnel suddenly appeared in the ground, following the stone steps all the way down. The wide tomb passage was lit by whale oil lamps that never went out. The side chambers were stacked with countless rare treasures. Arriving at the main chamber, it featured a vaulted ceiling, carved directly out of the natural rock of the mountain. In the center sat a coffin. The coffin was so massive that even if Banban slept diagonally, he still couldn't touch the head or foot of the wood. At first, facing such an incredibly luxurious tomb, Banban was completely baffled, because according to the inscriptions on the stone tablet, wasn't she just a general? How did she deserve such a grand tomb? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call it an imperial mausoleum. That was until 5 years ago, when the county rebuilt and constructed a library. So, one dark and windy night, Banban snuck into the library. Combining her birth and death dates with her identity, she started flipping through historical records. And she actually found records about herself, the first dynasty in feudal history. The founding general of the Peng dynasty, General Qilin. She joined the army at 15, and by 17, she was leading armies to conquer the Han and unify the Qi dynasty. General Qilin was honored as the first female general in feudal history. From then on, she conquered one kingdom every year, playing a monumental role in unifying the Qi dynasty. But, perhaps out of jealousy from the heavens, either toward her talent or her beauty, in the year 221 BC, General Qilin suddenly fell ill and passed away in the prime of her life, just on the eve of the Qi dynasty's founding. After reflecting on her own brilliant, fleeting life, Banban looked around her tomb once more. Fitting. It's so fitting. Absolutely perfect. She had won half the empire for the king of Qi. Saying she deserved this tomb, piled high with gold and jewels, was an understatement. She was even worthy of being enshrined in the ancestral temple. Plus, the king of Qi was actually a pretty decent guy. He spent a fortune building this tomb for her, protecting her body from decay for 1,000 years. That was the only reason she was able to come back to life. Her service on the battlefield had truly paid off. By the candlelight, Banban wiped down a long blade in her hands. This was her burial item, the very weapon she had used to gallop across the battlefield during her life. Banban stood at 1.62 meters, or about 7 feet in the old measurements, with a petite build. But this blade was 8 feet long and weighed 12 kilograms. Now that she was a zombie, her strength was double that of a human. Holding it didn't feel heavy at all, but she had been human once. She could hardly imagine how she had managed to swing such a massive sword to slay enemies back then. Moving to the big city, she needed to take a few things with her. The long blade, a jade pendant, a painting, some flower seeds, and a jar of soil from the tomb. The first three were burial treasures from her coffin, all items that were important to her during her life. After packing everything, it was already late at night. Banban held her head and laid back down in the coffin. In the massive double coffin, the two of them rested their heads on separate jade pillows and closed their eyes. The one beside her glanced at his own pillow, then looked at Banban, deep in thought. Banban, after we go to the big city, have you ever thought about looking for your husband? After all, 22-year-old Banban had a husband when she was alive. To be precise, she wasn't even sure if he counted as a husband, because neither the historical records nor the epitaphs ever mentioned her marital status. There were 3 reasons she suspected she had a husband. First, her coffin was a dragon and phoenix design, meant for a husband and wife buried together. That was why the coffin was so large, with 2 pillows. Second, the jade pendant she carried was a split pendant set. During the Tao dynasty, it was a token of love given by a woman to a man. Usually, they each held one half. Banban had searched the entire tomb but couldn't find the other half. The third and most definitive piece of evidence was that painting. The painting was an erotic illustration, depicting a specific frame of her and a man in an intimate embrace. Unfortunately, after coming back to life, Banban had forgotten all about that shameful romance. She couldn't remember the man at all. She only found a few strands of long black hair in the coffin, which proved that the other person had been buried there with her. Banban closed her eyes and muttered, "So many years have passed. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. How am I supposed to find him?" When she first woke up, she was the only one in the tomb. She deduced that he must have woken up first and left to find food. One coffin couldn't produce 2 different types of zombies. Like Banban, he should be a high-level zombie with conscious thought. Theoretically, it was impossible for him to just leave and never come back. After all, she was still lying in the coffin at the time. By any normal logic, he definitely should have come back to check on her after he'd had his fill. But Banban had lived in the tomb for 20 years and never saw him again. This made her think of the terrifying scene when she first went down the mountain and was blasted by humans. Banban felt that he had most likely perished long ago. But dead or alive, she had to look for him first. Don't you have a portrait of your husband? You could post a missing persons notice online. Or, you could take the portrait to the city government and have them run a facial recognition check. Nowadays, all the zombies are registered. Banban muttered under her breath. Showing off my erotic paintings to others? Who are they trying to socially embarrass? Banban replied lazily, got it. Let's talk about it after we've settled in. A week flashed by in the blink of an eye. At the Ziping high-speed railway station. Because the station was packed. And because she was carrying a heavy weapon that was even taller than she was, she had to be careful not to bump into anyone. Banban had to call out for people to make way as she walked, but unfortunately, an accident still happened. Suddenly, the head inside her space capsule cat carrier let out a sharp cry, and the next second, she slammed into a man. The man's sunglasses were knocked off. Banban apologized profusely while crouching down to pick them up for him. When she looked up to hand them back, she realized that he was a zombie, just like her. But he was the most beautiful zombie Banban had ever seen. The man looked to be about her age. He had silver hair, white eyebrows, white eyelashes, and white pupils. He looked just like a zombie with albinism. Banban couldn't help but wonder how such an exquisite and fragile-looking person had managed to survive during the zombie outbreak. Suddenly, the head's voice snapped her back to reality. Banban, they're almost done checking tickets for our train. Hurry up, don't be late. Banban shoved the sunglasses into the man's hand and sprinted toward the ticket gate with her suitcase. The silver-haired man looked surprised at the words. Banban? He turned back to watch the girl running away at full speed. His gaze locked onto her striking orange hair. After a moment of contemplation, his eyes flickered, and he followed after her. Just as Banban reached the ticket gate, she heard someone calling her from behind. She turned around and saw the handsome zombie from earlier. Banban assumed she had broken his sunglasses, and he was coming to demand compensation. Unexpectedly, he held out a business card. Hello, sorry to bother you. My name is Jiang Nan. I'm a film director. This is my card. Banban looked at the card, confused. Seeing this, Jiang Nan gave a faint smile. I'm currently casting for a film, and I think there's a character in it that suits you perfectly. If you're interested, feel free to contact me. Banban had no interest in acting and was about to refuse. But the ticket collector started urging her to hurry. While Banban was distracted looking back, Jiang Nan tucked the card into the side pocket of her cat carrier and said, I put the card in your bag. It won't keep you from boarding. I'll wait for your call. After saying that, he waved goodbye, but Banban clearly hadn't noticed what he said. She just grabbed her suitcase and headed through the gate. However, the head in the carrier had heard every word. Soon, Banban pushed her suitcase to her seat. Sitting next to her was a young, beautiful human girl. The girl was a bit shorter than Banban, with a slender frame that made her look quite weak, but she had a large suitcase. She had been struggling for a long time, her ponytail swaying as she failed to lift the suitcase onto the overhead rack. Seeing this, Banban reached out to help her stow it away. The girl turned to give Banban a grateful smile. Thank you so much. You're so kind. Banban stowed her own luggage, then turned to the girl and pulled down her sunglasses, revealing her white, pupil-less eyes, and smiled. I'm a zombie. Yet the girl didn't show the slightest bit of fear. Instead, her smile grew even brighter. Nice to meet you, zombie girl. My name is Yu Yuan. She reached out a friendly hand. Not only was she bold, but she was also a social butterfly. Banban, who had an easygoing personality, reached out to shake it. I'm Banban. After they sat down, Banban took the head out to let it breathe, but since the head had been just a head since its death. Because he's especially sensitive and insecure in crowded places, he didn't want to be talked about, so he buried his face into Banban's arms without saying a word. Yu wanted to minimize her own presence, so she glanced at the head in Banban's arms and pointed at it. Who's this? Banban rubbed the head's ears and introduced him with a smile. He's my friend, he's a bit shy. Shou noticed they were talking about him, so he peeked at Yu. Yu caught his little gaze and the young girl broke into a bright smile. Then she reached out and tapped his ears. Hey there, what's your name? Her tone had no hint of surprise or prejudice. Shou was a bit surprised. You're not afraid of me? You're just a head, what's there to be afraid of? If I were going to be afraid, it'd be of those zombies with arms and legs and superpowers. Of course, she knew Shou didn't mean it like that. So she continued with a smile, besides, I'm a highly educated person. I have an open mind, I don't do that whole discrimination thing. Yu had a sweet, innocent face. When she smiled, she looked like a literal fairy. Shou really liked this kind, friendly fairy. So he took the initiative to greet her. Hello. My name is Shou. Shou, as in the head? Yu burst out laughing at the name. Doesn't Shou mean a pig's head? Who gave you that name? Banban, who was sitting right next to them and had picked the name, blinked guiltily, and then she heard Shou's voice gritting his teeth. Banban, I need an explanation. Seeing this, Banban started her serious-faced excuse. In my era, every time the army won a battle, they would put out a pig's head to celebrate in the evening, symbolizing victory. You are the synonym for victory. Upon hearing this, Shou just rolled his eyes with a cold HMPH. Beside them, Yu realized she'd said something she shouldn't have, so she quickly opened a bag of potato chips and handed it to Banban to change the subject. Banban, do you want some chips? These cucumber-flavored ones are delicious. After saying that, she realized zombies didn't eat vegetables, so she turned around, opened a bag of barbecue-flavored chips from her bag, and handed it to Banban. Just as she finished speaking, the carriage suddenly became restless. Banban followed the sound and saw two people wearing black combat suits. They wore skull helmets and sat down in the carriage. It was the AZT. AZT, short for Zombie Hunter Squad, was a riot police force made up of human soldiers with powerful superpowers. They were an organization specifically responsible for hunting down zombies who broke the rules, so when the two AZT soldiers appeared in the carriage, Banban clearly felt the breathing of all the zombies around her grow light, but since Banban was a vegetarian, she wasn't afraid at all. She immediately picked up a cucumber-flavored chip and shoved it into her mouth. Yu, who was next to her, noticed the chip Banban picked up. A subtle look flickered across her face that was hard to catch. Soon, 3 hours later, the train arrived in the western province. Banban, who lived in District 9, and Yu, who lived in District 6, parted ways there. Before leaving, Yu proactively added Banban as a friend. They agreed to hang out when they had time later. Banban agreed, waved goodbye, and left. Yu watched Banban's retreating figure, then looked down and changed Banban's contact nickname to Cucumber-Flavored Zombie 33. The contact list below was full of names like Cucumber-Flavored Zombie, with only the numbers at the end being different. All their profile pictures were grayed out. After arriving at District 9 and completing the check-in procedures, Banban got the keys to her house and arrived at the residential complex where she would be living. The house was a townhouse. 3 households per building. Banban lived on the bottom floor. It had 2 floors, a basement, and a large courtyard. From now on, this would be Banban's vegetable garden. The room was fully furnished with appliances and just needed a quick clean before moving in. Banban was a hard-working zombie, so she immediately rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Time passed quickly, and by the time she finished cleaning, it was already dark. Getting hungry, Banban took out a cucumber she'd brought from the mountain and took a bite. It was crisp and refreshing. She suddenly felt that eating vegetarian really wasn't so bad. Time flew by, and Banban and Waiso curled up on the sofa, binge-watching movies all night long. It had rained heavily all night, and the rain had left the soil in the courtyard nice and loose. Banban dug out the previous owner's mini-tiller and tilled 2 patches of land. The larger one was for vegetables, and she wanted to plant a tree in the smaller one. Just as Banban was wondering what kind of tree to plant, a middle-aged woman suddenly walked out of the neighboring yard. She stared at Banban and Waiso with a strange expression, her eyes clearly filled with a bit of malice. Thinking they were all neighbors, Banban had intended to say hello and get to know her. But before she could finish, the woman's expression suddenly darkened. She turned her head away and stomped back inside, as if she were avoiding something. Waiso was completely baffled by the woman's odd behavior. What's wrong with her? Did I scare her? Banban asked, her face expressionless. Not at all, don't overthink it. She was targeting me, Waiso said, blinking in thought. But Banban ruffled his hair, cutting off his train of thought. Wait for me on the sofa for a second. I'm going upstairs to change. And while I'm at it, I'll head to the mecha shop to get you some gear. Waiso's eyes lit up at that. While Banban was changing upstairs, she suddenly heard a rhythmic thud, thud, thud of hammering coming from the neighboring yard. She walked to the window and leaned out to look down, and saw that same middle-aged woman. She was holding a hammer, driving nails into a locust tree, with the nails pointed directly toward Banban's courtyard. Banban watched quietly, and then the corners of her lips curled up. A mocking smirk appeared on her face as she put on her bag. Banban carried Waiso out through the front door, avoiding a confrontation with the woman fiddling about in the backyard. But just as she stepped out, the elevator opposite opened. Banban bumped into her neighbors from upstairs. When she first arrived, she had learned from the staff that the middle floor of her building was vacant, and 3 female zombies lived on the top floor. But only 2 female zombies walked out of the elevator. One was an elegant woman with a low ponytail and gold-rimmed glasses who looked quite imposing. The other was a baby-faced girl with long legs and a bob cut, whose physique and features felt slightly mismatched. The former just gave Banban a fleeting glance before walking off first. The latter lingered on Banban for a few extra looks, as if she were sizing her up. It was weird enough to make Banban frown, but she didn't dwell on it. Half an hour later, Banban brought Waiso to the biggest shopping plaza in District 9. She had a lot to buy. She went to the supermarket first to pick up a pile of daily necessities and food. To avoid drawing attention, she pretended to be like other zombies and bought a few boxes of raw meat. She bought quite a lot, and since Banban didn't have a car or a driver's license, she arranged for local same-day delivery to have it all sent home, then headed straight to the farmer's market for some vegetable seeds and fertilizer. She also bought an apple tree. After leaving the farmer's market, Banban took Waiso straight to a mecha shop, but when she found out that a full set of equipment cost 30 million, she almost suspected they had hacked into her bank account. This price completely crushed her dream of giving Waiso a body of his own. I think you're perfectly fine as a head, she said, but Waiso didn't think so. He was really, truly, incredibly desperate to have hands and feet, to be able to hold things and run around. Banban, I want it, can't we? But we really don't have 30 million right now. Buying all this stuff over the last few days has cost a fortune. I don't care, I want it. Shou suddenly started acting out, buy it for me. Banban suddenly narrowed her eyes, keeping her expression calm as if she had sensed something. Just then, the zombie salesperson nearby chimed in, Miss, we can help you set up a loan here. The down payment is 10 million. The zombie continued, you can finance 300 years, shut up. Banban glared fiercely at the salesperson, who visibly trembled. But Shou, still in her arms, kept making a scene. He opened his big, watery eyes. Banban, I want it. Buy it for me, just a little bit more. You go to work and make money. Before he could finish, a familiar voice suddenly echoed in his mind, cutting him off. Stop it. Once we're settled here, I'll head back to Lishan and pull some gold from the tomb to sell, then I'll buy it for you. Shou paused, looking at Banban with a look of uncertainty. Banban winked at him, though a few red bloodshot veins crept into her milky white eyes. This was a sign of a zombie using their supernatural abilities. Shou opened his mouth, dazed for a moment. Then, Banban stroked his head. All right. It's getting late. We should head home and eat. Before leaving the store, she swept a glance at the zombie salesperson, who instantly turned pale and hung his head. Once outside, Shou was full of confusion. Banban, what exactly just happened? That salesperson was a mid-tier mental type psychic. He was trying to control you just now. Banban, you're actually a mental type zombie? You're so amazing. I really couldn't tell at all that you were a king-level zombie. Shou's eyes were filled with adoration. Back at the Jinhua villa, the first thing Banban did was tend to her vegetable garden. But as soon as she reached the backyard, she saw a wooden sign hanging from the acacia tree she'd seen that morning. Scrawled on the sign in bright red paint were the words, "All zombies must die." A sickening stench of a curse wafted through the air. It turned out that in this society where humans and zombies coexisted, not everyone was accepting of zombies, and the middle-aged neighbor lady next door was one of them. Shou noticed the words on the sign, too, and looked up at Banban. But Banban signaled for him to ignore it, then grabbed a shovel from the tool shed. She went about her business, but just as Banban finished planting an apple tree and was reaching for the faucet to water it, a shrill, mocking voice rang out from behind her. "Don't you zombies just eat meat? Who are you trying to impress, acting like this and planting a bunch of vegetables in your yard?" Such hypocrisy. Banban turned around and saw the ugly, hateful face of the middle-aged woman next door. She didn't hold back and went straight for the throat. "You're an eyesore. You old hag." As soon as she said that, the middle-aged woman's fingertips began to tremble with rage. After all, no matter what age, women are most sensitive to being called ugly. "How dare you insult me?" The woman pointed at Banban, her face visibly contorted with malice. Seeing this, Banban added another jab. "Ugly old hag." The woman let out a sharp, ear-piercing shriek of fury, then suddenly fell silent. She was thinking, searching for an even nastier, more lethal curse to throw back. But Banban wasn't about to wait patiently for her. She kept attacking. "Ugly woman, those at the bottom of the food chain should know their place. Don't go provoking those at the top of the food chain. Stay away from me from now on, got it?" The middle-aged woman caught the threat in her tone and her heart skipped a beat. "You wouldn't dare. If you dare lay a finger on anyone from my AZT, I will end you." Banban gave a dismissive smirk. "Whether AZT can kill me or not, I don't know. But I do know that before that happens, you'll definitely end up as fertilizer for my vegetable patch." She finished watering and shut off the faucet. Banban, ready to watch the drama, turned to head back inside, but just before entering, she glanced up at the floor above. She saw the pair of zombie sisters she'd met in the elevator earlier, watching them from the window. Since zombies don't have pupils, Banban couldn't read their expression. She just felt that they weren't watching for entertainment. It looked more like they were observing something. Banban sent out a thread of mental energy to see what exactly they were analyzing. But it hit a layer of defensive shielding. Banban narrowed her eyes slightly. She realized these sisters upstairs had some tricks up their sleeves. She went back inside. Outside, the old lady was already wailing and cursing at the top of her lungs, threatening that her personal safety was at risk. She was even threatening to call the police to come and arrest her. Shou glanced at the lady outside, who was actually calling the police, and asked with some concern. "Banban, what should we do when the police get here?" "Don't worry, I can handle it." About 20 minutes later, 2 police officers knocked on Banban's door. Banban put down the avocado she was holding and went to open the door. A tall officer presented his ID. "Hello, District 9 Police Station. We just received a report from your neighbor. They said a zombie was causing trouble and threatening their personal safety. We're here to check on the situation." Banban replied calmly and unhurriedly. "I'm not the one causing trouble. That crazy woman was the one who started it by hanging signs to curse at me. We checked the surveillance footage. She only cursed at you once. But you cursed back at her 3 times? Banban laughed when she heard that. "She's slow-witted and couldn't out-argue me. Is that my fault? Besides, I wasn't cursing her. I was just stating facts. Saying she's old, saying she's ugly, was I wrong?" Looking at the old lady's appearance, the tall officer couldn't argue with that. That may be true, but being so blunt is really bad manners. But that tactic didn't work on Banban. "I never had manners to begin with." The tall officer was instantly silenced, not knowing how to respond. The shorter officer next to him took over, continuing the lecture. "Being rude isn't acceptable, is it?" But Banban just rolled her eyes. "Is being rude against the law?" The shorter officer thought for a moment. "It's not against the law. But it's immoral." Banban gave a nonchalant "Oh. Well, I'm lacking in morals too." Now the shorter officer didn't know how to lecture her either. He could only sigh helplessly. "Well, you should at least respect the elderly and care for the young, right?" Respect the elderly? Banban, who had a 4-digit birth year on her ID, was amused. Using age as an excuse to throw a tantrum and act entitled? Who's the one really acting entitled here? The tall officer reached out. "Let me see your ID card." Banban took out her ID. The police officer looked at the date of birth, and wow. The Warring States period, a 2,000-year-old ancient corpse. You're trying to apply modern moral ethics to her? It's no wonder she's not buying it, considering it was just a verbal spat with no major conflict. The tall officer handed the ID back to Banban and gave a routine warning. Neighbors should try to get along. Take a step back and things will work out. I only know that when you take a step back, the enemy just pushes harder. Whoever wants to back down can go ahead, but I'm not backing down. Banban is just completely stubborn. Anything else you want to ask? The tall cop was speechless, but the short one had plenty to say. Young lady, you really need to work on your morals and ethics. Having such twisted values is no way to live. Thanks. Mind your own business. After she finished speaking, Banban slammed the door shut. Inside the room, Shou saw Banban come back and asked, did the police handle it? Banban just hummed in response, then carried a big bowl of avocado salad and carrot juice into the living room. As she sat on the sofa, she noticed Ningxiao was watching a movie. What are you watching? That movie by the silver-haired haughty director we saw at the station. Banban gave a simple, oh. What's it about? A love story between a man and a male zombie. Banban knew what that was. It was a BL film. But she was straight and had zero interest in BL. Let's find a movie to watch while we eat. Shou handed the remote over to Banban. Banban scrolled through the horror movies, the sunlight hitting her and making her long orange hair glow. She looked absolutely radiant. Shou thought that director Jiang really had an incredible eye for talent. She really felt like Banban was born to be on the big screen, so she asked. Banban, are you sure you've never thought about acting? Stars in the entertainment industry today aren't like the theater actors from back in your day. Being a celebrity carries a lot of prestige. Everywhere they go, they're treated like royalty. They're walking gold mines, literally worth millions. No, Banban knew exactly who she was. Acting takes technique, and being a star takes specialized talent. All I'm good at is wielding a big broadsword. But then again, if I were to play a female general, I might consider it. Shou rolled her eyes, thinking, you wouldn't even need to act. You'd literally just be playing yourself. After searching for a while, Banban picked a movie about a merman in the sewers and started watching. Since she wasn't a paid member, there was a 300-second ad at the start. To everyone's surprise, Jiang Nan actually appeared in the ad. It turned out to be an open casting call for the lead actress of his new film. The first 200 seconds were the host asking Jiang Nan all sorts of questions, and the last 100 seconds covered the details of the new movie. The host in the ad asked a question. Director Jiang, can you reveal if the lead role in your new film is based on a real historical figure? That way, the girls auditioning can do their research ahead of time. Jiang Nan just smiled slightly at the camera and slowly let out a name. She is the first founding female general in history, the Kirin general of the Qi dynasty. When Banban heard this, she spat out a mouthful of carrot juice. Shou let out a high-pitched shriek. Banban, the Kirin general of the Qi dynasty, isn't that you? Someone is actually trying to make a movie about you. This is like dancing right in front of the actual person. The actual person, Banban, grabbed a tissue and wiped her mouth, her brows furrowed in deep thought. Banban, that director Jiang from earlier, the one who told you to go into acting. He wasn't talking about the lead role in this movie, was he? Shou asked, stunned. If that's true, it's way too much of a coincidence. Banban tossed the tissue into the trash. There's no such thing as that many coincidences. Her gut told her something was fishy. She pulled out her phone, searched for the ad, and watched it again. Her intuition was spot on. This time, she noticed a mind-blowing clue in the video. In the interview, Jiang Nan was wearing a white hanfu with a white jade pendant hanging from his waist. Banban paused the video and zoomed in. It was exactly the same as the jade pendant in her own hand.